Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. Please visit iTunes, Stitcher, or emmettmuckles.com to listen to all the episodes for free.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. This is your host, Emmett Muckles, as the intro says. Remember, everyone, you can find the podcast on iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio. Put it like this. Anywhere you can find a podcast, you can get this. You can even get it on Spotify now. So there is no reason for you not to subscribe and at least listen. Also, go to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast on Facebook and you will always get the updates. Today, my guest is Mr. Mike Hintz. And Mike has written a wonderful book, Discover Your Best Life. Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast, Mike.
Thank you, Emmett. Thank you, Billionaire Lifestyle listeners. How's everybody doing today?
I hope they're doing fine. They should be living that billionaire lifestyle.
The best billionaire lifestyle, right?
The best billionaire lifestyle. So, the whole premise behind it, when people say, I don't have $1 billion, I was like, stop thinking about money and think about your life. I was like, 30 days after your conception, when those two cells met together and agreed to make you, 30 days later, you were at 1 billion cells. So if you just think about your hand has 1 billion cells. You own it. You're a billionaire. So now start living. So what prompted you in your life to say, I have a book in me and I need to get it out?
I think the first thing was I started a consulting business. Much like a lot of America, I got that wonderful phone call one day. I had a really good corporate job, VP of a lot, and travel all over the place. And I got the call that said, today's your last day, Michael. We're cutting the department, and here's your severance package. Oh, nice knowing you.
Wow. That's a wake-up call for many people, particularly of a certain age. Usually if it happens to you when you're, let's say, 37 and later, you have a mindset shift.
Yeah, that would be me. Definitely. Yeah, I'm more in my late 40s when that happened. And I started a consulting business. I was doing some of the consulting work that I do now with clients back for my company. But I was able to kind of flip some of that, put it into a business structure. And then, as a private consultant, it seemed like writing the book is what a lot of consultants do, right?
Yeah. So your book is here, Discover Your Best Life. And, everybody has that epiphany in their life. And they're like, look, I figured out I've been living not quite the path that I've meant to. It's all come together now. So is this just another self-help book?
No, I mean, the funny thing is I didn't plan on writing a book that was anywhere close to this. I mentioned that it was a product of the consulting business. And so I really had this really solid traditional business book in mind. And as I kept writing, more of a balanced self-help book came out. And what really came out was a blending of personal and professional lives, which I think mimics a lot of what millennials bring to the workforce. And I think it's kind of where the job market is going more and more and more, where our personal lives and our professional lives are blending more. And that's the direction of the book as well.
It's funny that you say that because, for a while I was on that kind of anti-millennial bandwagon. And until I had a moment, I was sitting around with my youngest adult daughter, and I was just observing her and her friends, and they had a totally different dynamic than I would have had, when I was her same age. And she said to me, and I've said this on the podcast before, she said, Daddy, we've seen what you guys went through. You got the house in the burbs. You stayed married way too long to somebody when you both have changed. She was like, and you worked real hard and then they laid you off. She was like, we're just not about that. We're just about the experience of life. And I was like, ooh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think there's a lot of boundaries that millennials are willing to change that, other generations, kind of kept too solid and were a little too rigid. So, and I think the divisions between work and personal and professional are one of those for sure. So back to your original question, right? So I think this is not a traditional self-help book, and you get that from the title, right? So the subtitle of it is Live the Language of Personal and Professional Success, because the book has somewhat of a language structure. I use words in it a lot. Obviously, it's a book, but that came out, and I thought, wow, yeah, you use words in it a lot. I bet you do. But there are 48 I words that structure a lot of the personal reflection that I asked the listener to go through, and those individual I words drive the conversation, and they apply to your personal life and your professional life.
That's funny that you bring that up. We're going to delve into living the language, but there's something that I've noticed recently that people don't communicate as effectively as they once did, in the fact that, first of all, they're using ending a lot of sentences with prepositions, so you never really understand exactly what they're talking about. But what is living the language, and what does that mean? Without giving away the book, what does living the language mean for the Billionaire Lifestyle audience?
I think living the language for your audience would be finding how. So if we're talking about a billionaire lifestyle, of course, you're talking about living your best life, not just from a monetary point of view, not just having the means and the wherewithal to do what you want monetarily, but not trading away all the other things in your life to get it. Yeah. So getting the financial success or the financial means that you need in a way that still also equips you to enjoy them as well. So, whatever your income level you desire, or a job status or title, is it making you work 16 or 17 hours a day and many hours on the weekend and not be around? Or are you balancing out the demands? For instance, one of the I words that I use is income. Interestingly enough, of course, because it's so foundational to each one of us, everyone wants income. We all need income, even from the most philanthropic person who is wanting to help humanity and is more like has a humanitarian mindset. They still need income.
They do.
Right? They still need money.
Particularly if you're in America.
Well, yeah, exactly. And probably more of it in America than in other countries. But it's a foundation of what lets us get what we need. I'd love to read you the income I word if you'd like. It's just a couple paragraphs.
That's fine. Okay. Go for it.
All right. So this is the I word on income. So much of our adult energy in the Western world is spent earning an income. Our options are changing and expanding quickly, but the dynamics around the place money has in our life will likely not change. Is wealth bad, or is poverty worse? What about a person who spends 70 hours a week working? What kind of income does one need to be happy? Is income expressed in money, or what else can we consider it to be? I can't explore this important topic on this one page, but I can help to pry open this Pandora's box for you. I see my income as more of a trade required in life. Sometimes I have more, sometimes I have less. It's not about the money for me, but the life that can be purchased with it. What kinds of memories can I create with my spouse and children? What will I be able to do with my grandchildren when they grow up? Who am I able to help and why? These questions don't always need more money. Perhaps we need less money and more time or freedom. Perhaps less spending or a smaller home is the answer for some people. Income is not about money, but rather about the memories and experiences that create your life.
Awesome. That is so awesome. Because a lot of people have gotten it misconstrued. And I was speaking on this earlier today is many of us, particularly you and I, we have direct descendants who experienced the Great Depression in America. So they came from a very deep sense of lacking and want to protect themselves from experiencing it again. And they passed that on to their children, which were some of the baby boomers and that generation that came right after that. But then somehow those who were born in the 80s start pushing away from that, saying, look, I really need to experience this and see how things are going to work out without chasing that dollar sign. And I know that there are a lot of people out here who feel lost or disconnected from the world. What can you say to help them?
I think the first thing, I think for sure, I talk in the book many times about being at that point where you feel like either, like I was when I lost the day of losing that corporate job, where I feel like, the path that I thought I was on was interrupted. Whether sometimes it's a marriage, sometimes it's a loss of a job, sometimes it's bankruptcy, sometimes it's unexpected catastrophic expenses. It can be medical bills. All those kinds of things can throw people. It's not really a matter of if you're going to have a curveball in life. More times than not, it's when you're going to have a curveball.
That's true.
I mean, it's so. I think if you're walking on the sweet side of life so far, I think it's important for you to have the perspective of being prepared. I think, everyone experiences some challenging environment. When that happens, I think the thing for people to do, and what I walk them through in the book, is to kind of hunker down and spend some time with yourself. Those moments in our life are really a call to action, not so much for an outward action first, because too many people feel like we have to go run and do actions. We have to go search for jobs. We have to maybe sell the house. We have to downsize, whatever the case may be. I would advocate a different first step, which is take action and turn it inward into yourself first. So spend time diving into yourself, whether it's your faith that could drive that structure, whether it's meditation, using my book. The time that you spend really getting in touch with yourself, learning about yourself, and really deciding who you are going to be in this next phase.
I was just thinking about something that's in your book, and you start with a lot of I words or I acronyms, and one of them is I am too, which can be taken in so many different ways, but let's hear your philosophy on it, because you're the originator.
Yeah, definitely. That is the name of the process in the book. And what I just described for you is the I. So that's the insight phase. So the three phases, I am too, is made up of insight, action, and my metaphor. It's a 3-step process. And so after going through that insight phase, of spending time with yourself and really getting a good handle of who you are, what you're made of, what are your goals, what do you want to do, what's working, what's not, what needs rest. Then the second phase, the A, is action. Unfortunately, too many people, like I mentioned, put action first. We just jump into action quickly without giving it enough thought. So after going through the insight phase, then going through an action-oriented phase where we look at all of our possibilities. What are all the things that I have at my fingertips right now? What are good ones? What are bad options? What are things that I can put off for now? And really make a prioritization decision about what is going to get me to that next phase I want to be, which will be my metaphor, my new metaphor. The word metaphor is kind of a strange word, and we talk about redefining it in the book.
So let me ask you, do you bounce your ideas or your theories off of anyone? Do you have a mirror that you can find, is this valid for someone else, or is it just resonating with me?
I have a close network of friends here back in GR, my hometown, and actually have is that a green M you got on there?
No, it's an emblem for the blue and maize and blue.
Oh dear. Well, I would have to wear my S, then that might be a little bit of an issue. A mentor that was very, very powerful with me over the last handful of years, my friend Ted Jaw, who is mentioned as a acknowledgement at the front of the book, had a large impact in helping to solidify this process.
Mm-hmm.
And he has had direct contact with many of the globe's foremost spiritual leaders over the past 10, 20 years. So our work together, his work with them, and then being able to bounce it off, my business associates to kind of almost make it less spiritual and more pragmatic.
Good. So you seem like one of those people who, if you go to a party, you're going to take the first half hour, sit down on the couch and just check the room out, see who's flowing in and out, see what's going on, kind of get a feel for how people are. You're a people watcher. So how has that affected you?
I think I find people super interesting. I think I what makes them all tick. I think the reason I love people the most is I really like what makes one person different from another. I spent so much of my life trying to fit in and be that kind of Stepford person that now that I have a much more different perspective, I really enjoy learning about how each one's different, whether it's how we're different by race relations, how we're different in genders, how we're different in our work life, socioeconomic, regionally, north, south, east, west. I mean, America versus other countries. There's so many ways that make us all different that it just makes it really interesting for me.
Yeah, you know what I find out, and I've been having these conversations with people in person and with various groups because I'm out researching and promoting a project that I'm working on, and I find out that people only see the world through most people quite often only see the world through their own eyes. And then when you share something with them that is outside of their diaspora, they look befuddled.
Like, what?
They're like, well, yeah, why don't you just do this? I'm like, I can't, you don't understand. Like, the way the world is structured, I have to tread a little more cautiously than you because of certain circumstances historically. And they're like, ooh. Sure. I'm like, but I'm open to everything and trying to strive to a better way. Now, throughout your life, I want to go back. I want to go back to let's pick a year, and I'm going to pick one for you.
Okay.
1991. Who is that? Who is Mike back in 1991 versus the Mike right now?
So Mike in 1991 was very different, right? So he was he was married to one of his first wives.
One of his first wives.
One of his first wives. So book 3 is going to be quite an interesting book. We'll talk about some of that. One of his first wife. That's what I meant to say. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. In fact, my oldest daughter had just been born. I was in nursing school. I was full-time nursing school, full-time job in the evening, and getting very, very little sleep. Yeah, so I was working super hard at getting my nursing degree back then.
But spiritually, that wisdom, if you could talk to that Mike, if he came up to you right now, if he walked through your backyard and walked through your back deck into the door and he says, found you. It's like, I know you're going to drop some science on me, so give it up. What would you tell him?
I think I would tell him to slow down. I would tell him to, slow down. All this doesn't have to be on your shoulders. You don't have to accomplish everything right now. Life there's plenty of time for you to accomplish all the things you want to accomplish. Slow down, enjoy every day, spend time with your family and your kids.
Awesome. So are you going to be delving into the workshops and speaking engagements in the near future to accompany the book?
Yeah, definitely. There will be a Best Life workshop coming up, hopefully at the end of the year. Of course, I'm doing keynote topics on the book. And if people can keep track and follow the book's progress and those engagements on my website, northlinkconsulting.com, if they click on Mike's book, there'll be all kinds of press on the book and the engagements we have, signings and all that stuff.
Awesome. So why don't you subscribe to this 5 on, 2 off week measurement?
I heard of that. So, I mean, the 5 on, 2 off week measurement is somebody that is kind of this 5 on 5 the work day and no completely off on the weekend. I see it more like we should have more weekend time during the week, that we should blend it more. I mean, there are times where I'm working, and I'm like, is it the weekend? I kind of forget whether we're on Friday, whether we're on Sunday, whether we're on Tuesday. And the funny thing is, when you're really passionate about what you're working on, you don't keep track of your hours.
That's absolutely true.
Not at all. I'm sure there have been days I've worked. I mean, I know there have been days I've worked 24 hours without sleep. I'm tired, but
you're engrossed. You're so engrossed in what you're doing that you're just like, I understand that. And I believe everybody has had those moments where they are so passionate or whatever they're doing just resonates them that time flies by. And, when I was younger, it used to be video games. So my wife would, I would just be, just one more minute, and 1 more minute literally turns into an hour. So, but it can be anything. It could be a book. It could be something you're researching. It could be something you're building. It could be whatever your passion is. And let's get to this. How did you really say, I'm going to put this in book form? Because everybody has at least one book in them, but they don't take the action to do it. And not only that, so you produced a hardcover book, correct?
Right. Yep.
And with a hardcover book, there's a process to it. Did you stumble through the process, or did you do a bunch of research first before you went into that endeavor?
I did a lot of research. I think it's pretty normal that somebody's first book is a little bit of a learning curve, for sure. Even if you have the best counsel in the world, but this is the end of a 2-year process. I'm started on book 2 already, and certainly I think book 2 will be much. I think of all the things I've learned already, and it'll be much faster than 2 years. But I think the most important thing for me that I did. Is I was very strategic about getting some good counsel early. And so I knew a friend here based out of GR that wrote an interesting business book called The Zentrepreneur, and, had just a little bit of a business. You could tell it was business, but it wasn't like that traditional business lane. So I talked to him about his agent and got an introduction to his agent. His agent and I had a few conversations, and we ended up working together. And so having her help and guidance early on made a huge difference.
So this seems to be a book that is, from the title, it would be driven to a personal standpoint, a transformational, or someone is going through, or they're in the process of discovering what they thought about life is not the end all be all. Can this be moved into the business sense as well, or for businesses as well?
Definitely. Because I think some of the smartest businesses that exist right now are realizing that if they give their individual employees the tools to reach their full potential, then that business is going to reach their full potential. I mean, any business is the sum of all of its employees and the work and the process that they bring to work every day. So I think you look at Google, look at Uber, look at all of the progressive, millennially focused companies, and they recognize that the better work environment we create for employees, the better identity, the better culture, the more passionate they're going to be about what they do, and the better product everybody's going to bring to the table.
Yeah, the first time that really sunk in with me, I had to go out and do some training at Solar City, which is one of Elon Musk's company. And it was in California, and it was such a departure of how people were just being that it really affected me, and it made me really rethink how I want to work. I came in, there was bike racks on the wall, there was food, people were just kind of doing their thing, and they worked for the time for the task. When the task was done, they were like, I'm done. I'm out. I don't have to sit here for 9.5 hours. You know, some days they might have to because the task wasn't done. Yeah. But when the task is done, I'm done for the day. See you later. And I really like that style. And I think that's going to be our tipping point or our mode in the future. But let me ask you, how can people find you and everything that you have?
So the best way to find the book is to go to northlinkconsulting.com. It's just how it sounds, NORTHLINK consulting.com. And all the information on the book is on the tab, the Mike's Book tab. It's available on Amazon right now, Barnes & Noble, and it'll be out on Kindle and also audiobook, where all audiobooks are sold beginning tomorrow. Tomorrow, it's full release day.
So who did your audiobook?
I did it.
Awesome. That is so awesome.
Which is a bit of a challenge. It was a new venture for me. I mean, I have a friend who's a director of audiobooks, so thankfully he gave me a lot of advice and hooked me up with a good studio and coached me a little bit. But still, that is an interesting challenge in recording an entire audiobook.
How many pages is your book total?
It's 252 pages, a little over 55,000 words.
Ooh wee! How long was the process for you recording that?
So that was interesting. We scheduled 2 full days for the first recording, and the first day was 6.5, almost 7 hours, and the second day was 5.5, which is pretty fast.
That is fast.
Yeah, it was pretty fast. That was like pretty much right through. But you know, it was amazing how many little things that you don't think about, like little pronunciation things that you do, and the rustling of your clothes. And no joke, he would come over in my microphone and say, did your stomach just growl?
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. I'm hungry. Okay, well, let's re-record that. I can hear it.
Yeah, I process a lot of audio, so I understand. And particularly, I have learned, because I was a musician too in church choirs, and I used to watch how people would sing, and they would use their mouth totally different to pronounce the sounds. Now I actually listen to the words that I speak, because when you do a podcast, you listen to yourself and you're like, ew.
Yeah, exactly. Correct. So that was, and then I had to take that 6 hours of audio and edit it and listen to it. Oh. So I listened to it for 6 hours. I luckily was in a trip on Germany, so I had a couple long plane flights over to Germany and did most of it on the plane flight. So then we go back in the studio and had 3 or 4 hours of editing to do.
All right, here's my last question for you. One of my last questions. You're on an elevator, and the elevator, it's a big elevator, like a cargo elevator, and it is packed, and it gets stuck between floors. And you're heading up to disperse or show somebody your books. You got a bunch of books. Since you're a people watcher, and you look and you notice someone next to you, and you think to yourself, this book is for this person, how would you introduce them to say, here's a gift for you, and here's why?
I think I would ask it with a question first. That's my nature, is to ask people questions. And I think I would ask them, first thing I would ask them is, how are you doing today? And I think it would be to get some insight into how they feel about their day, how they feel about their job, how they feel about where they're going in life. And then the solution would be, regardless of whether you feel like you are on the right path now. I think for people that feel like they're on, even if you feel like you're happy with the direction you're going, then read the book as an affirmation of that. Read the book to solidify your commitment to the choice you've made. Otherwise, if you're not 100% in the direction you're going, or there's always been this tickling in your ear, like, should I be trying something different? Could I be doing something different? Then read the book to give that voice a dinner and make it stronger so you can listen to it.
Awesome. So very awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast, Mike.
Thank you, Emmett.
And I want you to be prosperous. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go into it. Everyone out there, close your eyes, because I'm going to give you directions. And you can actually see this with your eyes closed. I want you to picture yourself like you were just coming into the world, but you're an adult. So you have no clothes on. You have no judgment. Whatever your perfection, whatever you see yourself as, that's what you are. If you see yourself as negative, I want you to do this. I want you to picture a big, beautiful, bright, white light just shining over you and remaking you and taking away all the negative stuff. All the stuff your parents might have programmed that is affecting you. All the heartbreaks that you have suffered and carrying with you. I want you to let that light literally wash it away. Now I want you to come out of the light, and before you is a mirror. And you are standing there in all your nature's glory. And I want you to take the time and see yourself as brand new, whole, full, and ready to live in prosperity. I want you to get close to the mirror, and I want you to look at your eyes, and I want you to realize what they are. And I want you to remember what it's like to look up at the stars, because they're galaxies just like your irises are. And that, just like there are untold galaxies in the sky and how special they are, so are you. So when you meet someone with galaxies just like yours, treat them with love, treat them with respect. And until next time, peace.